Welcome to a Song of Ice and Whiskey podcast, where we drink and we know things.
Hello and welcome to a Song of Ice and Whiskey podcast. Unfortunately, you're stuck with just me today. Me and Luke. So it's Doug Harrelson here. Me and Luke had recorded a great episode on Monday. However, I made a malfunction that caused my audio not to exist on the final file. So we are re-recording. Unfortunately, me and Luke's schedules did not line up as well as we would have liked to make the dual podcast work. So we want to get you something. So you're stuck with just my monologue today. I hope that is all right. There's a chance for some potential rebranding as well in the future. We will address that as we go. We just want to get a good episode here for you guys to celebrate episode 6 of what a great season we had. We will still do a full season recap. But for now, let me go ahead and pour this up. This is the Breckenridge Whiskey, Breckenridge Bourbon. This is the orange edition of the Broncos Country blend. So let's pour this bad boy up and get started. So first I want to address some of the drama going on in the community with the Breaking Bad fans. I'm sure many of you are aware there was some review bombing going on from Breaking Bad fans towards the In the Name of the Seven episode, or In the Name of the Mother episode, as well as some review bombing back from Game of Thrones fans. I'm just going to go and say, on the behalf of Game of Thrones fans, can we please just stop? This isn't a productive use of either the Game of Thrones fans or the Breaking Bad fans. I have personally never watched Breaking Bad, but I know that it has to be a quality show. There's so many people that really, really enjoyed it. And this review bombing is making it to the point where none of the reviews actually mean anything. So let's just have a little cease and desist on that before we just completely demolish the entire purpose of these ratings. That being said, we're not here to talk all that drama. We're here to talk about the final episode of the first season of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Initial thoughts for me, and this is going to sound pessimistic, and it is. I do think this was my least favorite episode of the season. Not in a bad way. I don't think they did anything wrong in pacing and show running. However, it felt more like an epilogue than an episode. And we kind of discussed this in our initial recording. This was the cost of getting Baelor's death at the end of an episode, which I think was important and created a great moment. Episode 5 needed this kind of pacing to allow for episode 5 needed this kind of pacing in order to shine the way it did. It did mean that episode 6 did take some hits. I will also go and apologize in advance. This episode is going to have almost no editing. I'm going to try to get it out to you guys as quickly as possible since we are running a couple days late. So that means that you won't get all the good B-roll footage that I had in last week's episode, nor will you get the crispier audio. You're going to kind of get it as it comes out from me. So the first sort of scene that we decided to discuss, we were going to circle back to the Lionel Baratheon scene, but me and Luke had decided to batch that in with what's Dunk's next move and the different people offering to have him join their service. But we did want to talk about after Baelor's funeral, Dunk comes over to comfort Valar, and Valar wants absolutely nothing to do with it. His father's dead because of this hedge knight, and thought it was a great job by the actor. And how many sons die in their father's armor, but this was a father that died in his son's armor, which is absolutely heartbreaking. And he basically tells Dunk to just go kick rocks. He doesn't want anything to do with him. His apology means nothing at that point. It's a tough scene. You feel for Dunk here, but I also understand from Valar's position why he would not want to entertain this hedge knight after all of this. Our following scene, we have Dunk catching up with Raymond, who immediately flags him over. And Dunk's over here taking all the blame for the death of Baelor, and he says, everyone blames me, and Raymond's like, I don't. And this is where he introduces him to the wife, who we're all about 85% sure is carrying Dondarrion's kid. He did say he wanted to turn the whole world red. So he we might be talking about, instead of the stepdad, the dad that stepped up. But one of the exciting moments for us book readers, we got the unveiling of the green apple. So the green apple Fossaway branch has officially begun after he cracked his cousin's ribs and kicked his butt in a trial of 7. He now has branched off entirely. Better to be green and ripe than red and full of worms, as he says in the show. So this is where we kind of want to go back to the offers of service and stuff, because he does get beckoned by Maekar here, but then let's just think about all these offers that he gets kind of all at once. One of them from Lionel Baratheon, which also what a brilliant opening to this episode with the slow jazz music and the crappy maester, where he says, "This is beyond my means," and Lionel tells him that an itchy asshole is beyond his means. And he's like, he's a terrible maester, don't worry about it. But he wants him to come with him, and all the people that have been on the... Lionel is perhaps a sword swallower, or perhaps he's bi. We don't know for sure, but the people that have been beating that drum are beating it louder now for sure. It definitely felt some energy, and I did love the "if you come with me, I'll love you like a brother, and if you don't, I'll hate you like a brother." Really, someone who pointed this out, it's kind of a foreshadowing to the later Baratheon brothers and Renly and Stannis, how their disagreement goes. The Baratheon family, definitely an interesting one. Maybe when we do a deep dive on at some point, that might be a 2 or 3 part episode. Luke, if you're listening, you have your people talk to me, or talk to my people, and we'll see if we can make that work at some point. So, the conversation though with Maekar, when we get to that one, this is all the 2 conversations he has with him in the book are actually just one conversation. Dunk doesn't have the moment of, "I'm done with princes." He just says, Egg needs to be away from castles. And then we cut to Egg saying, "My dad said I am to serve you." And Dunk responds, "Serve you, sir." This is done a little bit differently, and you do kind of have this sad moment for Egg, where he's viewing through the window as he sees that Dunk doesn't want him. Very, very sad for Egg, and some great cinematography in that next scene where they have Dunk and Egg sitting in front of the window, and it's so quiet. There's no music, there's no ambience, there's just the dialogue, and it's not overdone. There's long pauses in between. The chemistry between these actors we have discussed many times on this very podcast. This scene did a very good job of conveying that. Finally, we move forward. So Dunk is trying to figure out what his next move is. He wants to get out, but we do end up with another Sir Arlen flashback, and this is probably the heaviest one because we cannot confirm, but this is almost certainly where he dies at, because that's where the show opened at, with the burying of him. And of course, the famous line that has now been blown all over the internet as a response to George R.R. Martin's inability to finish the last book in his series, a good night always finishes his story. George, you gotta finish Winds of Winter. You gotta finish Dream of Spring. The people are hurting out here. Whether this was like a little jab from Ira Parker, or George works on the show, or if he was willing to just poke a joke at himself for the internet to get all stir crazy about. Either way, it gave us some talking points in the form of all sorts of memes the last couple of days, for sure. We also get the tale of the penny tree. Interesting. I did as much research as I could, and it doesn't appear that that's any sort of book canon, but it doesn't necessarily contradict book canon. I think that there's too many people that say that if it's not written in the books, it's not canon. You can have canon that wasn't written in the books. Now, if it's contradictory to the books, we'll have a different discussion. I know House of the Dragon fans have big opinions on that for sure, but we'll save that discussion for when we get closer to Hot D Season 3. The next scene, we're sitting here with the Beesbury funeral. Man, I am flying through these topics. This is going to be like a 20-minute episode. We get to the Beesbury funeral, and of course, more apple puns where Rowan makes fun of him, saying all that fighting has turned his brain to applesauce because he thought it was bee magic and didn't realize they just put the queen bee inside the coffin to keep all the bees there. Quite hysterical. Whether or not she is a true and faithful wife, and whether or not it is truly Raymond Fossaway's child, that is a discussion for another day. I do find her tremendously entertaining, so I am happy with that sort of conclusion to his character and her character. And we talked about this a bit. Without giving away too much, a lot of the characters that we finished this season with, we are not going to see in season 2 or 3. There's a chance down the road. But a lot of them just have this arc during the tournament, which gave us a chance to have some good closure for a lot of them. It kind of felt like a graduation episode where they gave all the major characters a good curtain call in case we don't see them again. Like, for example, Lionel Baratheon we probably won't see in the next season, but we gave him a good send-off by giving him a good quality scene. Same here with Raymond. We probably won't see him in season 2. It's nice that we were able to give him a good send-off, thanking the actors, thanking the characters, a little bit of both. And this is where I said it felt more like an epilogue than an episode. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It will make this episode work fantastic in binge sessions for people that have chose to wait to the end of the season to watch it. I've already said this is going to ultimately be one of the best binge shows we've ever had, especially in the Game of Thrones universe, where I kind of liked to watch an episode, marinate on it for a week, because the episodes were an hour long and so much would happen. These episodes being so much shorter and fewer big plot points happening in each episode really make it a really nice binge, especially because you can knock it out in 3.5 hours, and then you can knock the book out in 4. It's there's something special about the short story, and thank you, George, for these novellas in regard to that. Darian, also during the scene of the Beesbury funeral, starts telling Dunk how badly Egg will need him, and questioning whether the Targaryen madness is something they develop in the wound, or whether it's this is the nature versus nurture argument that you always hear. He even mentions that Aerion used to be a good kid, and that he liked to fish, and right then the scene cuts to a fish with a blade in it. And this blade, unfortunately, will be part of this scene that comes, we simply refer to it as Egg's temptation. And I thought seeing the hair grow in, the Targaryen roots starting to show, as the anger starts to take over, because everything was fine until Aerion started doing his stuff. And that's when things took a dark turn for our hero. Sorry, y'all. I'm not used to being the one talking for all this time. I gotta drink some water. Maekar seems to be aware that this could be a potential thing. Either that, or he's just simply looking after his injured son. Same injured son he's sending to the Free Cities to hopefully become less of a evil butthole over time. And he doesn't say anything. He just walks over and puts his hands on him, and you hear Egg drop the knife, and you see the tears. Man, my Emmy for Egg campaign, though, is gaining so much momentum right now. This scene is so emotional and intense, and to see a kid of all of 11 years old nail this scene, one of the best casted characters, or one of the best cast characters in a well-cast show. Absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's one of the reasons this show has met such critical acclaim is because of his performance. Without it, I don't know if it has exactly the same sort of thing. These scenes kind of work really well as a back-to-back-to-back. Darion telling him about the Targaryen madness that sometimes develops over time. Egg starting to display the temptation for madness. And then Dunk rebuttaling to Maekar's offer by saying, I think we just need to get him out of the castle. Let's take him on the road with me. And Makar does not like the idea of his youngest son, his last son, sleeping in ditches or eating hard salt beef. And does point out that both Darian never slept in a ditch, and all the meat that Arian ever had was thick and rare and bloody. And ooh, I'm making myself hungry, even though I just had some delicious dinner from my roommate. Thank you if you're listening, Remy. The scene ends with Makar not exactly giving a thumbs up, but not necessarily a thumbs down. But it appears that he is not on board. We will get further on the Egg and Doug situation, but before we do that, I had to note that we got some closure for Sweetfoot. Book fans will know that we don't see Sweetfoot in books 2 or 3. We just know that he had sold Sweetfoot, and then the story kind of ends without any closure for our friend Sweetfoot. The closure for Sweetfoot here, where this horse is going to go live on an orchard, eating apples, with Raymond Fossaway, who's going to treat that beautiful horse so well. It made my heart so happy inside. So, justice for Sweetfoot. Beautiful scene. We do finally get the book line of Egg popping up and telling Dunk, my dad says, I'm to serve you. Heck yeah, let's do it. We are all systems go. So they have the scene then of them walking away, and of course Egg suggests Dorn, because he knows that's where Tansel Tootal has ended up, and he knows Dunk is very interested in that, as well as the comedic bit about the 9 kingdoms. For those confused, the Iron Islands are considered part of the Riverlands, unless Dorne is not part of the kingdom, and then they count it as the 7th kingdom, because you have to... they really want to make it 7, because it works really nice with the religion of the Andals and stuff. However, Dorne is part of the fold, so right now the Iron Islands are not part of this. They are part of the 7 kingdoms, they are not their own kingdom, though. And finally, the Crownlands are not actually one of the 7 kingdoms. Egg mentions them when he's doing his little tally. The Crownlands, it's like Washington, D.C. It's not a state, it's its own little entity. Finally, then we have the 3 horses going off into the sunset, on to new adventures, and then this was recently pointed out to me. I did not actually know this when we recorded the podcast the first time. Where Sir Arlen is walking, the grass is dead and no longer able to continue going. Where Dunk is, the grass is greenish, but it's starting to die a little bit. And then where Egg is, all the grass is green, symbolizing where they are in their journey. I thought that was a cute step. But then they cut to the credit, A Knight of the 9 Kingdoms, because Ira Parker cannot resist doing a little bit on the way out the door. Quite funny. But, wait, there's more. They cut to Miakar, and he's looking for Egg. Now, there is a popular theory on the internet that he actually let Egg go, but needed everyone to believe that he didn't, because he couldn't have them all believe in that he let his son go out with his head knight, because also then people would be looking for this giant hedge knight and a bald kid, and it could potentially put his son in danger. I think that's a very realistic... One of the things that is contributing to me actually starting to believe that a little bit more is the fact that Egg showed up in sort of peasant clothes when he greeted Dunk. Read into that what you will. I think Miakar is okay with this happening. I really do. I could be wrong. We won't get an exact answer necessarily, ever. Or if we do, it'll be later or it'll be in later seasons. It'll be something nice for us to speculate over while we wait for future seasons of the Tales of Dunk and Egg. I am really sad to kind of see this be the end of our journey with our friends Dunk and Egg for this first season, but I have been blown away by this season. I do look forward to a much bigger deep dive. I know this is a very short episode. We've went over on every other episode, so hey, maybe a short one will do you guys some good at home. Please leave any comments. I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to get to the full editing. I'm also sorry that you're seeing way more of my room than you normally do. You see this area, like right here, is where the studio is set to be, but you're seeing a little bit more of my life if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, I'm sure you don't even notice a difference other than hearing me talk way too much. But I thank you guys for joining us for this kind of shortened episode. Hopefully we're going to give you a full recap next week. Again, there is some potential rebranding in the future. I don't want to give anything away right now. We're working through the kinks behind the scenes. We will keep y'all updated as soon as we know. I will raise this glass that I barely even touched because I kind of just wanted to get this episode out for you guys, and I still have to smash edit this real quick before I can get a little sleep tonight. Just finished a long night. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please like, subscribe. It really helps the show out. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for joining us. See you next week for more Westeros and whiskey.